Hi, guys. I'm Nina,
I'm Jamie.
and we are Bloody Essentials. This week, in case you can't tell by my fantastic background, we are covering House on Haunted Hill from 1999.
I'm pretty excited about this one. I feel like, you know what? I feel like people hate on this movie, but it's pretty damn fun, okay? So come on.
I've got opinions and thoughts about this movie, but before we get into it, I just want to say I appreciate everybody for liking, following, sharing all of our posts lately. If you could continue to do that, share the info, the knowledge that you have, and share our page to people. Talk about it. Word of mouth is very important.
Mhm.
If you're new here, please like, follow, subscribe. It really helps the channel so much and tell your friends because we like more people.
Yeah, we want to talk to you about horror movies, so join us and other
Yes.
spooky stuff too. So,
Yeah, we're hoping to be doing other horror related things, not just horror movies. So stay tuned for that. That'll be fun.
yeah. But thanks
All
guys.
right.
We love all the like support and feedback and everything. So, thank you so much. It
Yeah,
helps us keep going. So, thank you.
it really does. It helps a lot more than you guys realize. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
JB, when was the first time you saw this movie?
Okay, so like I feel like this one was definitely when I was younger. It was on TV a lot. I feel
Yeah.
like on I don't know, like TBS and some of those different channels. I feel like they played this one a lot. So yeah, I was probably like a teenager,
Yeah.
early teenager. Yeah.
Okay.
How about
Okay.
you?
If it was on TV when I was younger and didn't realize it, I just scrolled past it and didn't think much of it. Yeah, I don't think I ever actually sat through the entire thing. And I actually watched it for the first time last year, shortly after
Ah.
Halloween. And then I watched it and I'm like, why does everybody hate on this movie? Like, it's not Vincent Price, but it's fun.
It's fun, and then like man, the carousel of actors in this movie is insane. Even like the small parts, like I mean,
Yes.
Spike from Buffy is in it.
Saying that, I wrote it down. I was like,
I know. I'm like, that's Spike. Spike's the cameraman. That's right. So like, yeah,
yeah,
there's everybody pops up in this movie. So many people you recognize pop up in this movie, and it's really fun.
lots of 90s actors you've forgotten about
Yeah.
and people that got bigger careers after this. So I'm so excited to talk about this movie.
I know. I feel like people don't talk about this one all that much. At least that I haven't seen lately, but this is motivation for all of you to rewatch it because it deserves a rewatch.
Yeah. We shan't compare it to the original because the original is of course its own thing,
Yeah.
but this one's fun. So we're bringing it back.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump right into plot points.
Yeah.
So I gotta talk about these opening credits. They're so 90s, so fun. Like, what did you think about them?
I literally was like, man, you just don't see that anymore. You just don't see that anymore. It's amazing because it's got nails and twine, and then it's got like little picture down here with like a face. It's got like so many things going on, and it's like, yeah, the way that it's actually put together is so 90s. They just don't do that anymore. They just don't.
They they don't, and the music during was so fun and creepy. I loved it so
I know.
much.
Me too. I'm glad you brought it up because I definitely made notes about that. So
Yes, for sure. I love 90s horror.
I do too.
So, opening up, we have this obviously flashback of some kind. We have a doctor performing surgery on a patient while it's being recorded by a nurse. Very creepy.
While
And
the patient is alive
while
too.
the patient's alive, no anesthesia, nothing, no
Yeah.
numbing, nothing. And the patients are looking from above through the ceiling, and it's very creepy. And then the patients kind of get loose, and there's just nothing but mayhem as we watch violence ensue.
Yeah, and like I just have to say, I adore Jeffrey Combs. So I mean, 90s horror, like I love Jeffrey Combs, and he's our like evil doctor in the flashbacks and everything. So
Yeah,
it's great to see him. And I have to say, like some of the kills in that whole like scene are
so
pretty
brutal.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
the attendant who's like sitting in the little room or whatever,
Yes.
he gets like pencils to the neck, like
Which is funny because before that, you see he's very meticulous about his pencils. So
I
it's like
know.
these patients, they are going after them and in the way that, they would never want. But it's fun. I love a good asylum, and especially when the patients take revenge on their captors, basically.
Totally. And like you definitely get the sense pretty early on that like things were pretty messed up at this place. This is
Yeah.
definitely like a mental asylum of the traditional sort, which was just awful. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't treat these patients very nice at all, but like it's great. It's so great that they like massacre everybody and take
It's
revenge.
beautiful. It's beautiful. So after that, we have a little newsreel explaining what we just saw, and basically the patients ran amok and they killed everybody except for 5 staff members. So that comes into play later. And we get the amazing Jeffrey Rush playing Stephen Price, the Vincent Price character, basically.
I love him. Like, I love his look in this movie. I love his character in this movie. Yeah, just happy feels with him, Jeffrey Rush, like the whole time.
Yeah, and yeah, I love Jeffrey Rush ever since the first thing I vividly remember him being in was Pirates of the Caribbean, so I have very fond memories of him being very theatrical,
Mm,
and
yes.
he does not shy away from that in this either, which is great. Um, Ironically, his look, he wasn't meant to look like Vincent Price, so this is really interesting. Vincent Price is the star of the original film, but in the original screenplay, Stephen Price was described as just a regular looking businessman. Um, Jeffrey Rush wanted to look more like John Waters.
I read this today and I was like, oh, yes, yes.
Yes, which makes me so happy that he was like, "I wanna more John Watersy." So, like, a thin mustache, very 20s-esque, which is strange because I think this movie still takes place in the 90s, so but
Mhm.
yeah, it's very, very 20s-esque, very charming. The director agreed, and they tested out some makeup, and they basically he ended up looking more like Vincent Price and unintentionally, and they decided to just go with it. So it works.
I love that story so much. I think that's so, so awesome.
I know. I love it. And great homage to John Waters as well as Vincent Price. Who knew?
I know, right?
Yeah. I think that's the highest compliment John Waters could receive.
Honestly, honestly. And I have to go back and just say I love like the little terrifying but true like news segment show or whatever. And
Yeah.
when she's like Jeffrey Rush's wife or Mr. Price's wife, she's like watching it in the bathtub. She's plotting like and I love it. I love that
Very
too.
charming, and it's very 90s because it's like unsolved
I
mysteries.
know.
I love it so much. Oh my
Me
god.
too. Me too.
So we kind of get a little taste of what Stephen Price is like. He's a businessman, and he has Price Amusement Parks. Yeah, that's the name of it. And he's promoting his latest roller coaster to a journalist and a cameraman, Spike, James Marsters.
I love him so, so much. He's on my list of people I wanna meet so bad.
I
I love
know.
him, love him, love him. We don't get to see him for too much, but it's great.
I just I'm not used to him sounding anything but Spike because that's what I'm so used to seeing him as. So it
I
was fun to hear
know.
an American accent from him.
I know, and you're like, "I know it's really you."
Yeah, you can't hide from me. Your hair may be different, but I know
I
you.
know.
Yeah, so they get a a little fake elevator drop thing, which I thought was really fun. Like he's like, nothing goes wrong at my parks, and then, the little fake out, and he's like, I told you nothing goes wrong.
I love his whole roller coaster and his whole bag with his amusement parks, like scaring people, thrilling people, you know. You get the great
Yeah.
fake out with the elevator drop. I love that. And then you get the fake out on the roller coaster itself where they make it look like the track like breaks, you know, and that one of these cars goes flying off. And the little like guy who's working there goes up to Jeffrey Rush. He's on the phone with his wife, and he was like, "Something's going wrong, sir." And you're like, "Oh no, the roller coaster's breaking." But they're just talking about like, "Well, this like dummy we had in this thing, its arm doesn't look right or whatever." It's so
I was like,
perfect.
oh my God. I did write this line down because he's talking to his wife and then he's trying to deal with this guy, this operator of the roller coaster. I love the line when he's like, Evelyn, go stir your cauldron or something for a sec. It's like so adorable. Like, I love that they still threw in little quips here and there that sound very much like it could have been in the original film, you know? Very fun.
Totally. It's like a fun, yeah, it's a fun little way to do things.
Yeah, because that honestly was one of my favorite parts of the original was the quips back and forth, the little digs at each other, and it's
Totally.
so fast-paced that you almost don't catch it in the original, and this is just the same, I think, so I thought it was fun.
Totally.
We find out that Steven and Evelyn are fighting over Evelyn's birthday party planning, and Evelyn knows exactly where she wants it, and she sends over a guest list, but Steven has other intentions in mind.
Yeah, and then those intentions don't even really like work out either.
No, no.
That list has a
Which
few changes, y'all.
quite a few changes. It's very
Yeah.
interesting because, the people that end up showing up at this party, I don't think any of them, well, mostly know who they are. So that's fun.
And I have to say, I love the way that they introduce like our group of characters who are coming to this party or this thing, you know. And so they all have these really cool invitations. I like how we see them too. I want one. And then
Yes.
like we just get a shot of them all in the car ride. So we get introduced to all our different kind of characters as they're taking this ride. Like, ooh, there's money involved. What is this? Who is this?
Right. Exactly. And they don't know either. They're all trying to
No.
figure out what is the mean why are they just giving away money and all this? So we find out soon. Let's see. So the guests arrive and their hosts are nowhere to be found. And then we meet Pritchett, the house owner. And if I could pick another character that I love just as much as Jeffrey Rush, it's Pritchett. I adore this man so much. He's right from the get-go, he knows he's in a horror movie, and he's trying to let everyone else know.
I love him so much, and I will say, just like a fun little note. Apparently, with Chris Kattan, they were just like, you know what? Just be you, boo. Like, just be you in this movie. You're the comic relief of this movie. Just do your thing and bring some like magic to it. And he just kind of
Yeah,
like did his thing.
I love that so much. I had that written down as well because
Yeah.
anytime someone ad libs lines, like, I think that's great, especially when they get kept in, so, yeah.
I know. But yeah, I love his character so much. So funny. And then like the slow like reveal of information that's coming out at this time because
Mhm.
we're introduced to like this very kind of cantankerous kind of like relationship between the husband and wife. Obviously she
Yeah,
doesn't know any of these people. They don't know them. And it's like, then you have Chris Kattan who's like giving little snippets of info, like, oh, his dad and his grandfather died at this house. Wait, like, what's the deal?
right, because they will be spending the next few hours, or the rest of the evening at least, in this house, so they kinda wanna know what they're in for.
Yeah.
So, basically, Stephen Price is offering $1,000,000 to each of them, whoever lasts the evening, and he says, "If you die, whatever you were going to get will be split evenly amongst the rest of us that survive." So, that's
Yes.
fun.
It's that classic, whoever lives through the night is going to win the money, but like some of you won't make it through the night.
Right. And he says you can leave at any time. Pritchett wants to take him up on that offer immediately. He didn't even want to step inside. Um, And obviously that doesn't work out so well because the house just the barriers go down on the windows, doors get locked, no one is leaving.
Yeah. Its big gears start turning,
Yeah,
and once those gears start turning, Chris Kattan's like, Pritchett is like, oh man, this isn't good. And everything is like going, all the windows are closing, everything's shutting down. And he's like, this
yeah,
is not good. We need to get out of here. I think he says something
yep,
about they're going to be mutilated or something to those
yeah,
effects.
yeah. And I believe Pritchett says the cleaning staff will be in at 9:30 the next morning and that the house is alive. So that's
Yeah.
so Stephen gives each of the guests a party favor, which is a gun. We assume is loaded, right?
And they're all in these cute little mini
Cute little
coffins.
coffins.
They're
Yeah, they're all
adorable.
it's like a big coffin, and then it's open and there's little coffins inside, which I think is so cute.
I know, and then all the little coffins have a gun in them. So like the plot
Yeah,
thickens even more, but very cute coffinry.
very cute. If I ever threw a dinner party, I'd want these coffins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So basically, everyone agrees to go to the basement to find the machine that locked them inside. They assume it's in the basement. Makes sense, right? That's usually where most utility things are, right?
Totally. And then like this is the perfect excuse to get everybody down in that scary labyrinth of a basement.
Right. Which is where they supposedly kept all the patients and did all their creepy medical experiments. So nothing could go wrong.
Totally not. And then like they walk I love how they have like these kind of like bodies in the room too, in these almost like fish tanks, like giant fish tanks.
Yeah.
I think they have like one on a horse, and so I thought those looked really cool. But yeah, unsettling.
Little unsettling, yeah. And Pritchett just like, oh yeah, these guys, like,
Yeah.
he's been seeing this all of his life.
Yeah.
Poor Pritchett.
I
Yeah.
know.
And shortly after this, we find out that Stephen hired a security man basically to set up cameras and keep an eye on everything as things unfold, basically, so he can have eyes and ears on everything that happens. And it's really funny. He learns that the security guy is not the one that closed everything off. So right away, things aren't going according to plan for him either.
Yeah, things aren't really working out for anybody. And like we've had a lot of like finger pointing at him so far already because like I mean he's the one who kind of threw this thing together. His wife is like, "Oh, did you rig this up? Like how'd you make the windows all shut and all of that stuff?" But as an audience now we're like, "Oh, I don't know. Things aren't really going right for him either." So,
Which
maybe the
is,
house
yeah.
is alive.
Exactly, and I don't think he's questioning it yet, but he's suspicious of his wife for sure.
Oh
So,
yeah. They think each other are kind of like out to kill each other, do each other in. Like these two, they really love like fucked up games and they like really hate each other. It's a lot of toxicity, folks, between these two.
oh, for sure, but, they're not wrong to question the other and suspect the other whatsoever.
They have good reason not to trust the other one.
So, when they go down into the basement, we find that there's, like, a section that's been kind of bricked off partially, and we don't really find out too much about that, but obviously, as Pritchett says, there's a good reason why they did that. So, we just leave it at that. Bit of foreshadowing there.
Yeah, remember that. Remember that,
Yeah.
folks. Remember that little spot.
Yeah, for sure. And right away, they get separated, right? Pritchett and Steven are on their own, and then Eddie and Sarah are off to their own devices as well.
As very Scooby Doo of
Very
them.
Scooby-Doo-esque, yeah.
Very Scooby Doo. Of course, everybody gets separated.
There was a moment in the film, where I literally thought Scooby-Doo music should have been playing because
I know.
they're running, and then they're running after her, and it's like,
Yeah.
"Ah!" Yeah, it's great.
Totally.
So fun. So we find out Sarah is not who she says she is. She is not some fancy,
VP.
wealthy woman. Yeah, she's an assistant for the VP that just lost her job. So
No.
she needs some money. So that's why she's there. And shortly after this reveal, she misplaces Effie. and she sees like a ghost version of Eddie or something, like a illusion of him, and she tries to follow him.
And he's got the glowy eyes. He's got like, those ghost eyes or something.
Should
He's
have
got
been a
vibes.
should have been a clue right off the bat, right? This is not Eddie, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
She's blonde.
No, it's a
Yeah.
good idea to keep getting further and further into this terrifying catacomb. Yep, great idea.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens. She gets lured deeper into the basement, and we see Ghost Eddie jump into a vat of blood, and she, for some fucking reason, tries to pull him out and is getting pulled in by the ghost.
Yeah,
So
first of all, like gravity, I feel like, he's like down there. If you think he's down there, he'd be heavy with all the blood.
he would have sunk faster for sure if that was really him.
Yeah. If it was really him, but it was not.
Yeah. And also, why would he jump in? Like, you've known this guy for what, 2 seconds? I'm not saving anybody from a vat of blood.
Yeah, no.
If you jump willingly, you're on your own. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah. If you were pushed in or this was done against your will, I will do my best to help you from the vat of blood. But if you chose that for yourself, yeah.
Right. Thankfully for Sarah, Eddie, the real Eddie, finds her and saves her before she gets dragged in. But she's very much aware at this point now that things are not as they seem in this place.
Yeah, I think like she's probably had her and Pritchett at this point are probably the ones who know the most, have seen the most. Pritchett has
Yeah.
grown up with it and she's just seen something pretty
She's the
crazy.
first one to see something. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And then we get a fun I love this so much. I love when anything like this happens. So Melissa, our other female that's not Evelyn, Melissa and Sarah are so identical. It's almost like the same character, so I'm very thankful that we got rid of one right away.
Yeah, I
But
know.
I was like I literally had to like go onto IMDb and just be like, all right, which one's which because I can't fucking tell the difference.
That's a lot of people to keep track of. I was calling everybody by their actor name for a while because there's so many
Yeah,
familiar faces that I'm like, I can't just keep calling them like
I know.
Allie, and I can't keep calling them Jeffrey. That's not their names in the movie.
I know. The thing is, though, with these 2 characters, Melissa and Sarah, I've seen them in so many movies that I don't remember their real name anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, blonde number 1, blonde number 2,
Yes.
which one are you?" Yeah, so but, Evelyn or not Evelyn, sorry,
So many names. Melissa.
so many fucking names. Melissa is walking around with her camcorder trying to get some footage because she's trying to get a new reality TV show because she just lost her other job and now she's trying to get a new one. Very similar to the other blonde.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Shout out to the camcorder, by the way, because it's awesome. It's like really bulky and it's silver and it's pretty sweet.
And it was a real camera that existed around this time because
Yep.
I remember researching it when I first saw it. I'm like, I've never seen a camcorder quite like that before. It was a really
Yeah.
really nice camera for the time. So
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
yeah. I didn't write any notes about it specifically, but it is on IMDb what camera she used, so
Oh,
there's that.
nice.
Yeah. But she sees the doctor, Vannicut, uh, Jeffrey Combs, performing surgery on camera, and then when she looks away from the camera, there's nothing in the room with her. Everything's fine. Put the camera down and go.
Yeah, I know. But I do love that like bit so much where like she can
Yeah.
see like the ghost on the camera basically, but she can't see them when she looks around. I love that. That's scary. It's like creepy. So very
Very
cool.
creepy, and it was very I don't wanna say common, it wasn't overused or anything, but it was used quite frequently in the '90s and early
Oh
2000s in
yeah.
horror, and I love it so much when I see it, it makes me happy.
I
So,
did too. I think it's cool. Because that would be
We
scary.
It would be terrifying, right? And, I miss VHS tapes and camcorders and not
I do
having a
too.
camera on your phone so readily available. So, yeah, it's
I
fun.
know. I know. I used to make movies all the time. Like I had a video camera and I'd make little movies with like my friends. My dog would usually be a character. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. I remember when photos were more of like for very special occasions and not for every day.
Yeah.
I recently went to a concert this past week and everybody had their phone out, and I was like right up there. I was off to the side,
Yeah.
but right off there. And I was watching the concert from people's phones. I'm just like, "Hmm,"
I know it's weird.
like very toxic, like thing to have as your hobby or whatever. I feel like put the phones down. Let's live in the moment, guys.
Oh, we're at a
Yeah,
concert. We
we're
should
at a
be
concert,
dancing. We should be
right?
watching the show.
We should be watching the show. And, we're in a haunted house. Let's experience it. Let's save
Yes,
your reality show for another time, okay?
exactly.
This is what happens when you record too much.
I know.
So basically, we cut away from Melissa and we just hear a blood curdling scream. And when everybody finds each other, they bump into each other and they find Melissa is missing, but there is a blood trail that goes up the wall and into the ceiling and into another wall. And it's so beautiful. The blood in this movie is gorgeous.
The blood is really cool. And then they come to that kind of realization. I forget who it is, but probably Pritchard is like, well, it's the house. Like that's where she went. The
She's in
house.
the house
The
took
house
her.
swallowed her up.
Yeah. I think someone says the house ate her or something.
Yeah,
I love
something like
that so much.
that.
Yeah. So much fun. And then, Sarah tries to see if we can find out who the killer was from her camera, and obviously we don't get any footage whatsoever, we just get her hand,
Which I
like,
love.
shaking, it's so beautiful. Restraint on their part, they could have shown very violent images, and they did not, so good for them.
Yeah, and I thought that was a cool moment too. I love like the found footage kind of like little moments in
No,
movies when people like find the camera and turn it on to watch because you're like, what are they gonna see? So I'm
exactly,
I'm a sucker for that. So I liked it.
for sure, and I think it's a very smart move, honestly, like, I don't think most people would have thought to look at the camera, so that's smart.
Yeah.
So right away, Evelyn accuses Stephen of, setting the whole thing up and that, Melissa's just disappeared and he's hiding her somewhere, basically.
Yeah.
And um she points the gun at him and he's like, "Do you really think I would give you a loaded gun?" And then she shoots and misses, thank God.
Yeah.
And uh, the glasses behind him break. So the guns are in fact loaded,
The
and
house did it.
the house did it. Yeah, and I think it's funny because you get Jeffrey Rush's face just goes white as a sheet, and it's like, something else didn't go according to plan.
I know. How everybody's little like house of cards is falling.
Yeah, yeah. Steven tells everybody else he thought that he had given everybody guns loaded with blanks, so he's very upset about this. And
Yeah.
Evelyn announces she's staying in a bedroom upstairs for the rest of the night and she will shoot anyone who tries to enter. So she's off to her own devices now.
I love her too. I just have to say, I love her character so much. She's like crazy. It's awesome. Because it's like, for, first of all, who in this situation would be like, you know what? I'm gonna go retire to the bedroom upstairs and just get into my beautiful nightgown and just like spend the night in this creepy house by myself
By
in a
myself,
creepy
yeah.
room. It'd be like,
Nope.
hey, Scooby Doo, y'all, let's stick together.
We stay together. And that's funny because that's not something anybody says in the entire film. Like no one is like, we if we stay together, we survive. No, because I don't think any of them realize exactly how deep they're in on this just yet. So
For sure.
yeah. So after that, Steven makes a little getaway and discovers that his cameraman is dead. And what a beautiful death.
I love that so much because he just like he's in one of those spinny chairs. So the spinny chair turns around and his whole like face is gone. It's just like a
On.
bloody like hole, like where
Yeah.
his face and the insides of his face used to be.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I wanna know if this was CGI or if it was practical. It looks really good. So,
Yeah, and I didn't know this. I was just looking this up today. I mean, Greg Nicotero did some of the special effects work on this. I did not know that until
um,
today. And I was like, oh, he was involved with this. Okay.
that makes more sense now.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes more sense. That's why the blood looks so pretty.
Yeah.
And, while Steven is in the camera room, he sees Jeffrey Combs, mad scientist, mad doctor, and, he's got a saw in his hand, so this doctor is not done. He is clearly very vengeful spirit. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, and he sees him and he's like heading towards Evelyn's area of the
Mhm.
house. So, Jeffrey Rush's character is like I'm doing it again. Steven, right? Okay.
Steven, yeah.
Steven is like determined to go, get him.
Yeah. Which I think is fun because, you wouldn't expect him to try to save Evelyn, but I think he's more worried about him being thought as the killer because obviously everyone is starting to suspect it's either Evelyn or Steven. Like, it's one of these 2.
Yeah.
It can't be supernatural. Yeah.
I also think just with their twisted relationship, if anything's going to happen to her, it is not going to be without his doing or without him being able to enjoy it and be there himself. So,
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think he actually wanted to like save her for good reasons. He's like, nah, like if this bitch is going down, I'm going to be there when it happens, okay?
I honestly think that Jeffrey Rush's character would be like, if anyone gets to kill this bitch, it's gonna be me. Like,
Me.
I've lived with her for so long, I get to do it.
I earned this, okay?
I think that that's more what he's thinking, like, "No, no, no.
So,
I live with her.
yeah,
I'm
this
putting
is
her
mine.
down. Yeah, she's mine."
Nobody's taking this away from me, okay? I worked for it, I earned it.
Right? I set this whole thing up, okay?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So, the rest of the guests, they're just determined to find a way out. They don't care about the money at this point, they just wanna get out, and they think that there's a way out through the basement. I don't know why, but they
yeah,
do. Um, sometimes there's a way out in the basements, but yeah. Anyways, they all end up in the basement and we get quite a shock, literally.
Ba-dum-bum.
Evel Evelyn is receiving electroshock therapy. My, she got down to that basement pretty fucking fast.
I know, the timing, man, it was pretty crazy. Time is a crazy thing in a house that's alive, you know?
Right? Or maybe the cameras were just deceiving him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Evelyn is getting electroshock therapy. She's got the thing in her mouth, blood starts dripping down, and they finally get it shut off. And we assume Evelyn is dead. She appears dead.
Yeah. I think our doctor even says, like, "Oh, she's dead," or something, but yeah.
And Stephen accuses the guest of being responsible for her death because he didn't arrive right away. So it makes them appear suspicious, right?
Yeah, so then it's like, who did it? Who is responsible for this stuff? The house.
It's a house full of strangers, man. No one trusts each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the guests decide that it had to have been Steven because he's been fighting with his wife all night long. Understandable. Even his wife was like, if anyone's going to kill me, it's going to be him, you
Yep.
know?
Mhm.
And so they lock Steven up and I had to research what this exactly was. It's a saturation chamber.
Okay, because I didn't know what it was. I just called it like a vault or like a tube, but what
Yeah.
is that exactly?
Let me tell you what it is, because there's a fan wiki page I went down to find out all this information. So the saturation chamber, I don't know if it's real or not, but supposedly this exists solely in the movie. There might be something
Okay.
similar to it out there, but this particular thing we're looking at is for the movie only.
Okay.
So it was invented by Jeffrey Combs's character as a treatment for schizophrenia. I really wanna know who the fuck wrote this fan page, but this is what the fan page said, and we're going
Mhm.
off the fans, okay? Um, the chamber's walls spin when it is activated, and they have pictures of the doctor, Jeffrey Combs, bouncing a basketball. So when the chamber is activated, the pictures of the doctor on the moving walls will form a moving picture, which causes anyone who is inside the saturation chamber at the time to hallucinate and become disoriented. Um, this is based on a theory made by the doctor that what would drive a sane man mad would drive a madman sane.
Oh.
Yeah, which I think is something they say at some point
Yeah.
in the film, but I can't remember when or who says it. Though it may have been actually just another way of the doctor to torture his patients because that's what he likes to do. He's a sick
Sadist.
guy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I have to say though, I love like the chamber. It's so cool. Like the effect of like one of those like old moving pictures, like early film basically looked like that.
basically, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's makes sense for the 20s, just when film was really getting going, that you would have something like this, and it looks terrifying, like
And it's so cool and so 90s because then, like, he puts those goggles on, and he's like holding on to this thing and he's wearing the goggles. And then, like, you're not just getting like, you have the Jeffrey Combs image, but then you have all this crazy shit flashing and they put the bag over his head and there's wire around it and he's in the
yeah,
water and there's, like naked lady bodies and blood. It's a whole
yeah,
trippy little scene.
yeah, for sure, and it's obviously the ghosts, the spirits in the house are getting to him and just, like, they really feed off of people dying tortured in this house, and that's what they lived for when they were alive, that's what they live for now when they're dead, so it makes sense, but, it's very scary. I wanna know how the fuck he got the goggles on,
I
because this thing is
know.
moving really fast, but it's
Really
it's very
fast.
fun, very scary.
I
So,
love like
yeah,
the evil nurse too, who's in that whole bit, who talks to him before they like put him in the water and everything. Love
she's so
her.
pretty,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, oh, and I forgot to mention, I can't remember his name, Peter is his real name,
Dr.
um
Blackburn or something.
Dr. Blackburn. He basically tells the group he's gonna stay behind and watch Price to make sure he doesn't get out, when in fact he just flips the switch to activate the chamber. So, Blackburn, what are you doing?
So there's definitely a new little bit of suspicion cast upon him because that's fucking torture. And I gotta say, like, I also really love there's that scene where like they're looking at each other through this hole, like this peephole basically. It's like a peephole shot. And it's him and yeah, he's like watching him and they're like losing it because all this stuff is happening, and we're like, ooh, Dr. Blackburn might be bad.
Yeah, I mean, you kinda suspect it as soon as you see him because he's very good at playing a bad guy in anything he's in, but
I know. We didn't trust him from the start, but
I think every single movie I've seen him in, even Burlesque, he's kind of a villain,
I know.
so
We knew all along, man.
I love to hate him. He's fun. He's a fun actor.
He's such a fun actor.
Yeah, as soon as I see him, I just get all excited. I just so nostalgic for the
I
90s, early
know.
2000s.
I
Yeah.
know.
So after that, we cut away to Eddie and Sarah. They discover Dr. Vanicut's office, and they find out that everyone that showed up to the party tonight is somehow related to the 5 staff members that survived the attack on the asylum.
Meaning, of course, the house had to be responsible for the invites because, yeah, but that's a fun little.
Yeah. I love that so much. So it's almost like the house is trying to get revenge for what happened, not so much the patients or the spirits that are there, but the
Yeah,
house.
the house
So that's
itself.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
When they find this out, Pritchett says that Price didn't make the guest list after all, the house did. The house is pissed and has no morals, is what he says. And I think that's so fun.
It is so fun. And it's like, again, moral of the story, folks, listen to him, okay? He's the one who has the most knowledge about this house, okay? And he's been telling us that everybody's going to die the whole time, and he's not been wrong.
He's the creepy local at the beginning that stays through the rest of the film. And you should listen to the
Yes.
crazy guy. Always listen to the crazy guy at the beginning because he's usually right.
Always. I know. It's like he's not trying to hurt anybody. He's not weird, and that's, like, he's crazy Ralph, but he's telling you.
He's crazy Ralph. And just listen to
Listen.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, so we get one of the big reveals of the film. We learn Blackburn and Evelyn are lovers and they are working together to get back at Steven. Preferably to have Steven die at the end of this, basically.
Yeah, because turns out she's not really dead. She didn't die from the little electroshock thing. They were like in it together.
Yeah.
Because at first you're like, "Oh, he is a bad doctor," because then he goes to Evelyn's corpse and he's kissing her, and you're like, "You were a really bad
Feeling her
doctor."
up, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're like, "Oh, she's alive. Oh, they're in this together somehow." Yes.
Yeah. Which makes sense because he is a doctor, so he would theoretically know how to make someone appear dead when they're not really.
Exactly.
So he Romeo and Julieted it without actually doing it. So
Exactly.
yeah. So that's fun. But I fucking love Evelyn. She's a survivor, man. She basically says that in order to get them to the rest of the guests to turn on Steven fully, they need another body. And why look for a body when you can make one?
She's such a badass.
So
She
she
gets him.
she gets him. She is not afraid. She's like, I can find lovers are a dime a dozen. I'll find
Yeah.
another one. So she's used him to his extent, and he's no longer needed. So she kills Blackburn.
Yeah, I mean, like, she, like, stabs him multiple times. He's all bleeding, and she's just like, "Yep, hey, I'm doing what I need to do here."
Yeah, she's a survivor. I love her. And
Yeah.
so we get the amazing reveal. The rest of the guests discover Blackburn in the saturation chamber, and his head is cut off, clean from his body. It's
And
beautiful.
it's so great because you have, like, the headless body drop. I love me, like, a headless body drop when you
Mhm.
realize that it's a decapitation, the head's not attached. That's always such a beautiful moment because there's like a little bit of
Just like
humor
a
to that
pop.
inherently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Open the door and there goes the body, but the head's still
The
there.
head's still there and he's staring at you. It's so beautiful.
Mhm.
I love it so much. And the
So
blood.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much fun.
I
So
know.
of course, they immediately are like, "Steven did this." Like, there's no way anybody else could have done this. Evelyn's dead, now Blackburn is dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah finds Steven, and they kind of have this little exchange. Steven is very out of it, very confused. He's got blood all over him,
Yeah.
so easy target, and he's just like, help me," whatever, and Sarah is just like she shoots him, like, she can't trust this guy.
And she doesn't just shoot him, she, like, totally unloads, her gun into him,
For a
like,
full clip, yeah,
all of it, like, every bullet, she just unloads into him.
yeah, it's great. And Eddie and Pritchett find her and they just calmly are like, "It's okay, we're leaving, we're going upstairs."
Mhm.
And very, I love Eddie so much. I love Taye Diggs, always
I
have,
loved I
and
love Taye Diggs too.
yeah, so he's just so gentle, he's like, "Come on, baby girl, it's over." And it's
I
like, I just love that so much. He's so
know.
gentle and tender with her.
I know, it's sweet. That thing that they have kinda developing is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I like how it's nothing that's really said between them. It's just kind of like the original with the two the kind of on-screen romance that you had developing there in the original.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that, and I love that so much. It's not spoken. You don't really have a whole lot of dialogue there, but it's hinted at that there might be something later if they survive. So
Yeah, it's subtle, because it's like, how ridiculous would it be for like a true love story to unfold in this moment, right? Because it's like they have all
yeah,
kinds of stuff going on. They don't really have time to like fall for each other right now.
Exactly.
But there's something there.
For
If they can
sure.
survive through the night, maybe they can explore that a little bit more. But they don't got time for that right now.
For sure. We gotta make sure that everybody makes it out first. He may
Yeah,
not make it, she may not make it, we'll see.
yeah.
And as soon as they go upstairs, Evelyn reveals herself and, uh, assumes that Stephen is dead, and, you know, we yeah, it's so fun, just the little things she says to him when she thinks he's dead, and then little did we expect Stephen is not dead either. He made a very convincing show of it. He was wearing a bulletproof vest. He had a lot of faith that no one would shoot him in the head. He got
He
very lucky.
he really did. That worked out just right for him, but
Yeah,
very, very fun. Because like, yeah, just their talk to each other. I mean, their hatred for each other. It's really great. It's delicious.
it's a great way to describe it. It really is delicious. Every time these 2 characters are on screen together, we get some fantastic dialogue, and
No.
it's so much fun to just listen to. I could listen to a whole play of them just going back and forth with each other. It's great.
I know. They're both great actors too, so they're wonderful
Really
together. Any
talented.
moment that they're together, it's great.
Yeah. And Steven has had enough. He is not putting up with Evelyn's shit anymore, and he
No.
shoves her through the bricked wall that, we were told was dangerous or there for a reason at the very beginning. And Evelyn, it's very interesting up until this point, they hate each other, but Steven is genuinely terrified for her, and Evelyn is, like, being very gentle and tender, like, "Steven? Steven?" Like,
Mhm.
it's, like, almost like I think underneath this, maybe there's a little bit of compassion for each other and the
A little
game that
bit.
they're playing. Yeah, but, it doesn't work out so well for Evelyn. She dies a very painful CGI death.
Yeah, so she's down there, they're having the thing, and he sees like this blackness like coming towards her, right? And then yeah, I just called it the CGI-ness takes her, which is like the house. And so she's kind of like hanging out in the house CGI-ness, and then like her face like kind of slowly CGI like dissolves into it. And
Yeah,
then the CGI-ness is there, and it's kind of like one of those ink blot
it's like a
Rorschach.
Rorschach, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It there's some scenes where it looks good, and there's some other scenes where they add the faces and it doesn't look so great, or when it moves really fast and it looks like shit. But,
Mm.
they did what they could. I don't know how they would have done it otherwise, but yeah.
And it's like, I think people hate on it, and it's like, but like honestly, it's so much fun to see it like now. Like it's
Very
awesome.
nostalgic, yeah. It's like watching the 2nd Mummy movie and seeing The Rock come out as a Scorpion King. Like, it's a shitty scene, but you love it,
But it's
so
awesome.
it's
Yes.
fun.
That was like top of the line, okay? That was top of the line back then.
They were trying to meet a deadline, okay? They needed to push
They
for that release date, and they just weren't cutting it, so they just had to act
they had their
fast.
reasons, guys. They had their reasons. You try to make that look real.
It still looks better than some of the shit I've seen pushed out now, so
Agreed.
yeah, yeah.
Agreed. It's not the
With
best, but it's not the worst,
and they had
guys.
half the team working on that the Marvel shit that's pushed out now.
I know.
Yeah. Anyways, so Evelyn is dead. She is dead. She's not coming back.
Yeah.
And, um, correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa's body is found? It happened so fast, yeah?
Yeah, because he like
It's,
opens up
like,
a
split
cabinet
up.
or something, and like, yeah, her parts are like all in this cabinet.
Yeah, her parts are split up and all divided, like her lungs and everything, and it's
Mhm.
yeah, it's fun.
It's very
Uh,
fun.
yeah, it makes sense, because it's an asylum or whatever, so of course, some crazy fucking ghost would do that.
Of course.
So, that's found. Unfortunately, Pritchett stayed a little too long in the house, and he gets eaten by the CGI terror.
Yeah, the CGI mess gobbles him up.
Just gobbles them right up. Yeah. So Eddie, Sarah, and Steven eventually just they all run up towards the attic. That's where they think is the best way to go. Not wrong. The basement didn't work
Yeah,
out so well. Maybe the opposite will help.
yeah.
Also, does it seem weird the levels of this place like compared to the outside? We talk about that.
A little bit, because we do get exterior shots of this house too, and it's not your typical house. It's like built in. It's like almost built into the
Built into
cliff.
the cave, yeah, the cliff, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like almost. It's got like kind of like an Art Deco almost feel to it. The way it's shaped, the
Very,
way it kind of looks. So, but yeah, the proportions in this place are perplexing.
very perplexing. But they end up in the attic, and Steven is trying to basically open the house, find out, the gears and everything to get things open so they can get out. And Steven makes the ultimate sacrifice for Sarah. Who
Yeah.
would have thought Steven would be so kind and generous? Because, you know,
He has not been this whole movie, but
yeah,
sometimes,
but
seeing something like that changes you, I guess.
yes, yeah,
Seeing your wife getting eaten up by that and then being chased by it. I think the teeth had or the house had teeth at one point in one of the
mhm,
hallways that they were looking down. So I guess that
yeah,
changes a man.
sure, sure.
His heart, like the Grinch, his heart grew 10 sizes larger in that moment
Which would
before that.
explain his which would explain a lot, yeah. Not only that, but he was in the saturation chamber, and that definitely fucked with his head a bit, so there's that.
As a saturation chamber will do, yeah.
Yeah. Sarah gets out, we assume Eddie is stuck there too, but Ghost Pritchett saves Eddie.
I literally
Um,
said Ghost Chris Kattan saves the day. And then me and David were talking about Ghost Chris Kattan all night.
oh my god, it's one of my favorite moments so much because just before Ghost Pritchett comes out, you get the best fucking line in the movie. We learn that Eddie was fucking adopted.
I know, I know.
He's like, "You're supposed to be here, he's adopted."
I know.
Which is great because you had no clue the entire time.
Yeah, I know.
It's oh my god, I love Tay Diggs so much. He doesn't get a lot of, opportunities to be comedic in most of his other film roles, but this was
I
great.
know. And he's awesome in this, yeah.
Yeah, so Sarah and Eddie are the final survivors. We finally get a black guy that makes it to the end of a horror movie.
Yes.
And who better than Tay Diggs, right?
I know, really.
The best part, and I'm convinced that the house did this or, like, this was, uh Steven's, like, final act of goodwill, like, as an apology for all the shit they've been through, but they happen to find the checks, the $5,000,000 tucked away nice and neat just so they can pull it out, and they're like, "Uh-huh." But they're at the top of this Art Deco cliff thing,
Over the
and it's like, "How do
ocean.
we get down?"
Yeah. It's literally what the movie ends on is her, I think, saying like, "How do we get down from here now?"
"Uh-huh," yeah, all the and then the music swells, and I'm like,
Mhm.
very 90s ending, right?
I know. It's awesome though. But yeah.
Oh, such a fun film, like, you can't take it seriously. Of course, it's nothing gonna be the same as Vincent Price, but it's fun. It's nostalgic because I grew up in the '90s and stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know how old you were in the '90s, but yeah.
Yeah, I was like 11 when this movie came out.
Okay. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna say how
so
old I was.
I was like 11, so I was like definitely a 90s kid. I do kind of remember this being on a lot on TV. Obviously, I didn't
Yeah,
see it right away when it first came out, but probably wasn't that much longer afterwards. Once it
yeah,
was on TV, I definitely watched it, and it was
yeah.
on quite a bit.
I feel like it's one of those movies that would easily transition well to cable because there's not a whole lot of gore, and the stuff that would be too much, you could easily cut out,
Oh
so,
yeah, I think
yeah,
that one was pretty easy to put on
yeah.
TV.
Yeah, so, yeah, that is House on Haunted Hill. Let's get into fun facts. I have quite a
Yeah.
few, I was surprised.
Okay.
So, Famke I think that's how you say it, Famke Jensen, who, was Evelyn. She performed her own stunt when the glass ceiling breaks at the very beginning when she makes her great entrance. It was extremely important for her to remain where she was and very still. Yet, even with her basically glued to the spot, the shard that hit with so much impact that it bounced her head off the table, and you can see it if you inspect the shot very closely. I couldn't tell,
Wow. I could,
but
yeah.
evidently, I even tried to slow it down a little. I had no clue what they were talking about, but yeah, it's terrifying the thought of a glass shard coming down at you that fast. So
Holy wow.
yeah, I thought that was really cool. This is fun. So William Malone, the director, he got the idea to set the movie in a former insane asylum when he was filming an episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Uh-huh.
And he was filming it in a former asylum, and he noticed that crew members were running scared out of the basement and not wanting to film there. So that's fun.
I love that. That is very fun.
Yeah, for sure. I thought this was cute. Co-producer Terry Castle is the daughter of William Castle, who directed the original film.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
really cool. Wow.
Yeah. So they kind of had the family support. So that's really
Yeah.
fun. This film and 13 Ghosts were Dark Castle Entertainment's first films, and they were both remakes of William Castle films, House on Haunted Hill in 1959 and 13 Ghosts in 1960. And the studio actually took its name from William Castle, which I did not know. I love Dark Castle movies. I loved them so much when I was a kid.
I love them
Yeah.
too. So I love when I yeah, I definitely lived that this was I read that this was their debut and I
Yes.
yeah, I love them. So
Yeah.
makes this movie even more special cuz yeah, very fun
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure. The faceless apparition price encounters in the saturation chamber was originally designed and created by Dick Smith for Ghost Story in 1981.
Oh, I read this. Yeah.
Yeah, but it never appeared in the final cut of the earlier film, so they recycled it and used it for this one, which I thought was really cool.
Same.
Yeah. So there were a couple people that were initially considered for different roles in the film, so I just made a list here. Marilyn Manson was originally considered for the role of Dr. Vannicut.
Oh, wow, interesting. Okay.
I kinda would have been intrigued, although I love Jeffrey Combs. I think they made it up to Marilyn Manson, though, because several of his songs were in the movie.
I was gonna say they have that awesome Sweet Dreams remake, like that cover of Sweet Dreams by
Love
him.
that
And
cover.
oh, me too. I always have. I had it on like
Yeah.
multiple mix CDs, like when I was in high
Aw.
school. It was like on mixes that my friends made for me, man. Like I anyway. So yeah,
I
that's
love
that's a
that.
really fun fact. I didn't know that one.
Yeah. Elizabeth Hurley was initially considered for the role of Evelyn, which I could
Okay,
see. I
I
could
could
see
see
that,
that.
but
Mhm.
I really like the woman that we got for Evelyn.
Me too.
Jansen is her name, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought this was really funny. She would have been perfect if she had gotten it, I think. Cindy Crawford was considered for the role of Melissa.
Oh, I love Cindy Crawford. Oh my
I do
god.
too.
I
I do
love
too.
her.
I know. That would have been so much fun because she's very like I could just see the technological obsessions coming out now.
Yeah, I
It'd be
know.
fun.
Ugh,
Yeah. Um, when Price says from here on, it gets really scary when he's promoting his roller coaster. The roller coaster that zooms past behind him on the tracks was CGI. It was inserted digitally afterwards. I read here it says if it were to have really been on motion as he stood there, the wind from its movement would have sent Jeffrey Rush flying off the ride entirely.
oh. Well, then they made the right choice.
Yeah, yeah.
Safety
Uh,
first, y'all.
yeah. The roller coaster that was featured in the not the one that they were on, but, the one that's in the background, it's the Incredible Hulk from one of the theme parks at the time. I don't think it's still in existence, the roller coaster, but that's
Not
what they used
sure.
in the background.
Okay.
Never been, so yeah, I thought that was
Same.
interesting. To any theme park, it's not local, so yeah.
Yeah.
Um Let's see. The only character in both the original and the remake of this film is the owner of the house, the same name, Watson
Mhm.
Pritchett. So all the other characters are loosely based on ones from the
Right.
original, but they don't have the same name. When Steven Price is talking to the cameraman, you can see a Freddy Krueger glove hanging in the background. I didn't catch
Aw,
that.
I didn't
Yeah,
catch
that's
that
fun.
either.
William Malone, the director, he wrote over 20% of the film's final screenplay, though he did not get a writing credit.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yeah. This is fun. You'll get a kick out of this because I know you love cinematography. A spinning saw blade that was held in front of the camera lens was used to achieve the fluttering look in the hallucinatory sequences experienced by Price in Saturation Chamber.
That's brilliant. Oh, that's
Right?
really brilliant.
That's so fun.
So crafty. Like that's what I love about like special effects people and like cinematographers. Like some of the stuff that they come up with to do like to make something happen. It's like it's so simple, but it's so brilliant. Like who'd have thought that that would work as well as it did?
I know. And it's so clever. You can't even tell. Like,
No,
it's very creepy though. It's a great scene.
definitely.
This is kind of obvious. The unethical psychiatry methods and experimental procedures that were performed by the doctor and his staff are loosely based on actual medical experiments conducted by the Nazis.
That would check, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They weren't too concerned with the care of their patients, so
Not so much.
yeah. And I love this so much. This is my last one. At 20 minutes and 36 seconds, two blockbuster video cassettes sit underneath the cameraman's sandwich on the desk with the video monitors. Um, they were actually inserted digitally for product placement.
I love that, and I loved them in there. That just reminded me of something I did read too about this one. So, I love me some like horror marketing, right? And for
Yeah.
this one, what they ended up doing is they gave theaters these like scratch cards, kind of. So, like when guests arrived to the movie, it was like, "Ooh, you have a chance to win the money," like the characters did. So you have these little cards, and I think like some of the prizes included like gift cards or like giveaways to Blockbuster. Yeah,
Sign me up.
I
Sign me up.
know. I know. So I thought that was like really fun. A lot of because like it was like, yeah, if you make it through the movie, you have the chance to win, just like the characters did, and some of the prizes were to Blockbuster.
What's great about that is William Castle did a lot of, like, the theater gimmick, so that would be really
Hmm.
fun to be like, if you make it through the movie, you get a prize, like, that would be he would have loved that.
Totally. Yeah. So I thought that was amazing.
Oh, I love that so much. Why is no one talking about this movie, Jamie?
I know, I know. It's like, man, don't get too stuck up on the little bit of like bad CGI, okay, guys? Like, come on, like there's more to it than that.
Seriously. There's no one in this movie phoned it in, no one.
I know. Everybody was like fully committed, and they're really fun faces in it, and it's like silly, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's so worth. It's a fun watch.
they were having a good time. I would
Absolutely.
I would kill for a blooper reel.
I know. It must be good.
Oh, yeah. Alright, let's rate this movie. Jamie, what would you give this movie?
So I love this one. It was really fun to rewatch because I have not rewatched it in quite a while. And I remember just kind of being like, why do people hate on this movie so much? And I was like, okay, it might be the CGI, but like still, like it's come on, give it a break, It was pretty cool. All that being said, for me it's probably like a 7. I would definitely watch it again. I've watched it, a few times before, but rewatching it now was kind of special because I don't know, like it holds up in a different way. It's nostalgic. It has like a very nostalgic feel of the time, and it's awesome.
For sure, yeah, despite the CGI-ness, that it's only there for, like, the last
I
5 to 10 minutes of the
know.
film,
I
so if you're really
know.
it serves its purpose, and it's still kinda spooky, like, I'm sorry, if a CGI black Rorschach test was coming towards you with faces in it, you'd be scared too, so shut up.
You'd be pissing your pants, man. That would be terrifying.
It's talking to you. Yeah, so I love this movie. I only saw it for the first time last year, and uh, I recently saw the original in at the Music Box here in Chicago, and that was fun because they had the whole
Aw.
theater gimmicky stuff too. But I think this movie is great. It made me feel very nostalgic for my childhood. I love 90s horror because it's so cheesy and gimmicky and silly, and they had fun with it. They didn't take themselves too seriously, and I think people are a little too snobbish about their horror nowadays. So,
Same.
yeah, I think it's probably a good 7 for me too. Just the acting is great. You don't if you've never seen this movie, you don't really know who's behind it really, and it kinda sticks to the original when it comes to that. So, that was fun.
Yeah, and I wish I would have like written some of them down, but I did actually find a good website, and I'm trying to remember where it was. It might have been like Fandom or something, or Wiki, whatever. But somebody actually like broke down like the similarities between the
Oh,
two.
wow.
You know, where they say some of the plot points that were kind of reflecting off of the original one. So they kind of take their own take on some of these, and it's pretty interesting. I meant to write them all down. You can find them, and you'll see that they did homage to the original, but they kept it their own
Yeah.
thing too. Like I think they handled it right.
Yeah, I think it's more fun when you take something that is loved by so many people and you make it your own while still paying
Right.
homage to the original. I don't want an identical, remake. That's boring. It's
I
already been done. Like if you're gonna
know.
remake it, do your own thing. I could easily go watch the original and not have to worry about the remake, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Give me a reason to want to watch the remake.
Make it new-ish. Like make it something new. Make it its own thing.
And they definitely did. It's a tribute to the 90s horror, honestly. It's great. It makes sense because the same studio did this, but it reminds me very much of 13 Ghosts. So I think if you like 13 Ghosts, this is a good movie to watch.
Definitely, and that's what I thought the whole time I was watching it, I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, it is very 13 Ghost."
very fun, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, this is House on Haunted Hill remake of 1999. I'm Nina.
I'm Jamie.
Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share with your friends, and we will be seeing you guys very soon. Bye.
Bye.